Vintage clothing is what fuels fashion.
Not only in streetwear, but just fashion in general, everything is trend-based. So everything comes back. Like right now we see this big resurgence of late 80s, early 90s in the major fashion houses. And the major fashion houses are usually the ones that are pushing the envelope, and then streetwear kind of follows behind, or vice versa. Streetwear does something and the fashion houses catch on to it, and so they both kind of eat off of each other.
Vintage inspiration is very prevalent in most relevant designers. Vintage clothing will always be sourced to, bring pieces to life.
As Americans, we receive our trends from both Europe and Asia because they're ahead of the curve. I feel like it's vintage. They were probably doing this years before it kind of came back strong here in America.
On the forefront of fashion, most people are either designer or streetwear or vintage.
The 90s apparel especially is big right now because all the kids that grew up in the 90s are now like coming into their own financially, so they can afford to go back and get that Tommy piece that their mom would never buy them when they were younger, or they can go back and buy that rap tee of the rapper they weren't allowed to listen to because their mom wouldn't let them play it.
The 90s is just nostalgia for us, my generation. It just brings you back to your childhood, and nostalgia always will sell. It's a good feeling, you know what I mean?
With a lot of older clients that we have that come in and they say, oh wow, I remember having that similar starter jacket when I was younger and wanting to relive those moments.
It's something, you were a kid and you remember your older sister wearing it, or you remember your parents wearing it, or whatever the situation may be, it brings back memories. So if people can buy a piece of clothing and get that nostalgia feeling, it's, they're more likely to buy something.
Finding vintage clothing is a difficult thing. You can do it at the thrift store, and I tell everyone, hit up your thrift, try to find stuff. I was like, if you can get it there, do it, that's the best way to find vintage clothing, the cheapest, but it's not that simple. A lot of times you'll go and you'll just be completely disappointed. You'll spend hours of your day, and if you're not into that and you value your time, this is the place to go. You come here, there will always be a great piece for you here.
I know a few people, I call them professional thrifters, and being able to find particular pieces that are in high demand.
I just like the mystery behind it. You never know what's going to come in. Like Supreme, you see every week what's coming out. You know what's going to come into the store. Vintage, it could be a rock tee from the 80s, or it could be a rap tee from the 90s, or an old Tommy pullover. It's just the excitement of what could come in.
Everyone wants to look different. Everyone wants to look cool. No one wants to just blend in anymore, at least not me. And I think that's pretty much why vintage has become so popular.
The shoe community, I think, has adopted fashion now. And it used to be two totally different things. There were sneakerheads, and then there was fashion kids. And now I think the two worlds have kind of merged a little more. So clothing is really big for us right now. I think you could tell a lot about somebody from their shoes. You see somebody with beat up Vans with a hole, on the outside. You're like, oh, he probably skates, Sneakers is kind of that first introduction before you even talk to somebody, in a way, in this community. I know when I look at somebody, I always look at their outfit and then I look at their shoes. And kind of, not make a judgment off of them, but like, oh, this seems like we would have this in common.
Sneakers are very important, not just to the outfit, but it's a culture. It brings people together from different walks of life to have a conversation about the latest Jordans that came out, or the latest pair of Kanye West shoes. Our idols and people that we grew up watching, especially in sports and also in fashion, sneakers were important to them, so I think it is kind of important to us.
It's just easy to represent who you are and what kind of person you are.